Hello. So I wanted to go over a series of different double column variants. I would say I use three of these most consistently. Two are just they're curiosities. You know, they're interesting to know and they may help you. But I am going to go through the five single double columns that I'm most familiar with. The thing that defines and separates them from single columns. You'll often see single columns. It doesn't have to be a single, column. You'll see people do both quite a bit without having the like kanuki in the middle or the little joiner in the middle. You'll see that on aguras. When we start aguras, we don't start with single columns. We don't start with double columns. We start with single columns, even though you are tying two columns together. Um, and I think double columns, they can, and a lot of people will tend to substitute single columns for double columns. Like, I don't know how many times I've had my ankles or wrists tied in a way that, they're doing it as a single column, but it needs to be a double column. And what that allows is it doesn't make the stuff rub together as much. You now have a little bit more distance and a little bit more mobility and wiggle room. So it's actually going to pay dividends for you. It's like the agura is, yes, and a very perfect, because you've got these things, the skin and muscle sitting on each other. So there's really, if you're going to try to shove something between there, it's not going to work. So double columns are obviously intended to be used for different things than single columns. But again, I don't see enough people comfortable with them. So I don't want to go over them. But anyway, the first one I want to go with today is, I don't use this one, but I do want to teach it. So I used to use this one though. This was a very comfortable one for me. It starts with a reverse tension, and I find a lot of people, especially ones that are newer, really like reverse tension to start. So you'll go around and you'll have your bite in the middle. Let's see the best way I can get this to show. So you have your bite in the middle, and you're going to take from below and do a full pull through to do your reverse tension. So just something as simple as that. Now I was instructed to tie away from the like ankles and stuff. Like whenever you're doing this kind, you're supposed to kind of wrap away from it. But honestly, I tend to start mine so high up, and so you don't want to tie anywhere near the ankle root or the wrist root. Like when you do a double column or you tie on somebody's wrist, it should be ideally past here. It shouldn't really be anything this close. And so for that reason, they'll usually say you start here and then you wrap away. I don't do that. I actually go the opposite way, and I'll show you why I prefer to do that. The ending makes more sense to me. But so for the consideration, you'll want to start a little bit higher because you're going to do a couple wraps, and they're going to actually, I'm going to wrap towards the place. But here's why. So you do your reverse tension, and you just do a full wrap around to your original point, but you're not going to grab anything. You're going to continue on. And I call this double column follow me for some reason, because it's literally just like this piece of rope is going on a little journey, and it's like it's following itself in some way. So you did a double wrap here, and now we're at original point, and here is that original bite that we made right here. I'm going to zoom in actually because I really want to show this clearly as I can. Okay. Okay, so let's do this one more time. So you've got your reverse tension here. You set it. We are wrapping towards the ankles, which is something really I only do. You go around once and twice to your original starting point. And then here is your original little bite that we made here. That's where you're going to go through. And this thing is going to travel, it's going to take a turn, go through that, and then it's going to come around back. So there's your original bite that you created. There's your pull through. And this thing is just gonna go straight. And that's what I like about this double column, is it's a continuous movement straight in a lot of ways. So now it's going to go between the ankles or wherever, and it's going to follow itself right back through. And so here's that same bite that we just went through once and went around, and we're going to come back through it out through the top. And essentially we're done. And the best way to lock this off, it's a very simple lock off. It's going to be right over here. We're going to take this rope and we're going to shove it through to create a little half hitch loop here. And then you're going to reach through, or however you want, pull your tail through, and you're going to tighten it up. just like that. And that's going to leave you extra rope or whatever. You can continue on, you can move, you can, wrap, tie off, lock off, whatever you want to do. But I find this is a very simple, effective way to get a double column without knowing too many bowlines or loopies or anything that could be too confusing. And I want to show it one more time, just from start to finish, just to demonstrate how simple it is to just move forward with this thing. And I don't know why, I just think of this rope as like, yeah, it's just basically it's traveling, and then it's like kind of calling out behind itself to, like follow me, because that's what it's doing. It's just going once all by itself, and then when it finds its little, original point, it goes, and then it just keeps going straight. And then you recall how to end it by you follow it right through the same spot. And now if you wanted to eat up extra rope, you could continue to feed this through and then come out. And again, the best way to lock this off, don't try to lock it off on the side. And that is one of the limitations of this thing. It's not incredibly balanced. It's a little imbalanced, and that's why you want to make sure you're not doing it too tight so your bottom has plenty of mobility, especially once you make this lock-off point on the side here. And like, just think of this like a padlock over here on the side, and that's another limitation of this double column. It's got this big, ugly lock on the side, which, and you'll want to double lock that, probably. Like on its own, it's not too bad. And I honestly would do this for something that's probably not going to be, I would probably continue to move. I would do this, and then I would continue up the legs. That's probably the only time I would use something like this. But I think it's an incredibly good double column to know if you're struggling with some of the other designs. Okay. I want to show real quick my preferred one, because if you found that very simple, I'm curious to see how you take this one. But this one is going to be, there's not going to be any reverse tension, not like we did a minute ago. So what we're going to do, you're going to want a long working end on this. Let me zoom out a little bit. Yeah, keep that in mind when for the bite on this one, you're going to want a long working end. So you want to wrap all the way through once and twice, and you'll make what I often refer to as a 6-lane highway. So you've got your middle, and you've got, your bite and your working end. So once you've got this structure and you can hold this in place, this is very good for mobility and rope. You're going to cross them right there. And so that is kind of like, I don't know if you call that a reverse tension or if you're just trapping it. I don't know. But anyway, so there they are, and they're going to cross here, and then that bite, you can actually hold the bottom right here. That bite is going to go around, and that's going to be what kanukis this thing. So this is what it would look like. I want a better angle of this, actually. There. Okay, and I'm going to show that one more time. So you want to make sure you have enough bite, because your bite is what you're going to need to wrap around. So notice how I have a lot. So cross it right there. That bite comes through the point and it comes out through the top. And then you're going to do a little loop move. I still am not a fan of that. You're going to do a loop move. So once you're holding everything up front, this is like, it's all going to bow tie up front. So you've got your two here, you've got your bite and your tails. You're going to make a loop with them. Like, I don't know the best way to kind of show that, because I take my fingers, I'll take two and I'll twist them like this. And then you feed that bite through that loop, and then you simply pull that thing tight, and then you're going to want to do it again. So you'll take this, your two fingers, I usually notice I'll take two fingers and I'll take that rope and I'll loop it. Even if you loop it twice, that's fine. Because like this loop motion can really trick up your brain, but you'll do it once like that, and then you'll stick that bite through and you'll tighten it up, and then this gets you to the point where you can load this thing and it's not going to cinch or tighten at all. It's just, yeah. So this is my preferred one, and I do want to show one more time really quick how quickly you can get this thing on. And whenever I tie on other people, there's, I have a vanity towards doing the hands first, even if, like, so if I'm tying somebody's legs, I'm not just going to tie their legs. I'm going to tie their hands behind their back first and then tie their legs or something like that. And this double column, short of prisoner's cuff, is going to be your quickest way to kind of take control and space somebody like that. So it's like you take their hands in front of them or whatever, and like, have them look at you and watch you do it. Because I mean, you can do this very, very fast, where you just loop this through, you pull it, and then you do your loop. You can give them a mean little tug too, if you want to be playful or whatever, and then do another loop, and then, then you've kind of got them, little control or whatever, and if that's how you're playing, then you can, engage in a little bit of power play without even having done a tie, and that's so important for partnered shibari, in my opinion, is elements like that. And so knowing a double column like this that you can throw on somebody and then just take off real quick when you want to actually do whatever it is you're going to do with their hands, I find that very valuable. So in this one, you can attach load to it. I really, really like this one because, once you're traveling, you can kind of do whatever you want. Okay, what was in the... Okay, so splitting rope. So this is the one that I probably I've never done anybody, but I could see me wanting it done on me. And that's another reason why I'm teaching it. So here's your bite here. We're not actually, we're going to start this very differently. You're actually going to take your bite and you're going to open it up. So you're going to open it up and you're going to start behind the feet like this. So this is the bite. And so you're going to put your feet together. They don't have to be, you never want them to be too close. In double columns, you will want some space in there. So here's the bite. I've opened it up. Now, this is going to take some practice, but you're going to take both, and you're going to pinch them when they come in the middle like that, so make sure you maintain your tension, and you're going to do your pull-throughs like that. And you're going to cross them behind just like you did up front. Do your pull-through, and you're going to cross them again. Then you're going to go to the back and cross them again. And you're going to do this trying to lay them as evenly as you can, without laying the rope over one another. Until you come up with the front. And you've got this little structure that looks like this. And then you'll do like a cross tension, like an X thing, kind of like we did on that one. So you can do a cross thing. And then you're going to take one of them. Oh, you know what? I've actually got one too many wraps, I think. I'm going to have to cross it one fewer. So yeah, if you have more rope, obviously this will be much easier. But okay, so you cross them here because I want to make sure I have enough to show how I do the fisherman's knot at the end. What I had done may have worked. You may be able to kind of tuck those ends up front. So I would take the first one up first, and then reversing this one, I would take this one through. And this is not I don't know a graceful way to tie this. And then you just go ahead and do the thing again, cross through again, kind of like meet in the middle and trade them. Well, I tried. There it is. Okay, and so once you've got them in the middle, what you'll do is fisherman's knot. And let's see, I'm trying to show that better. The best way I can tell you to do it is just cross this one over, cross this one over, and then cross this one over again, because you want 3. And you close that up. And then you do 2. So cross, I'm not showing that very good at all, am I? Cross 1, 2, until it looks like that. And then you close it up. So, and you've got something that looks like that. If you were using a bigger piece of rope, you could obviously do a lot more wraps, and this would be great for a thigh wrap if you wanted to do like, a bunch of thighs with a bunch of rope, like you sometimes see. And it's funny, I see that done with white cotton ropes so often. But anyway, that is that. That is not something I really use, but I would like to. I don't know. But I think that one's important to show because it's something you can use to achieve heavy wraps with relative stability. Okay, let's see, what else do I got here? The standard to follow me, the multi-sleeve. Okay, so the next one I want to show. So the goal of the next one is I wanted to see how many double columns I could kind of get on my leg or legs, you know, because it's like, I think of a 4 double column tie as kind of like the gold standard for like a hog tie or something. Like, you know, if you're going to do double columns on the legs, I feel like you want one above the knee, below the knee, at the ankles, and then, you know, in the thighs. But I got to thinking one night, and I was just like, is that really like all like we can do? Like, how many can we really fit there? And so the style I use to achieve this, and I don't have enough shorties. Like, if I had enough like appropriate pieces of rope, these would all be, you know, I could do a bunch of standalone double columns, but I kind of devised a way to do a series of double columns that do have kanukis and connect between the legs, but are pretty much all one unit. And I haven't done it in a while, but I do want to attempt to go through it because I feel like it's just fairly standard. It's not hard at all. Such a girl who hasn't done it in like months. But instead of starting at the thighs, because that's how I did it, I managed to get 14 of these on my legs completely. You know, with spacing in between. Each of them had their own kanuki. You know, most of them were connected by one piece of rope as I traveled. But yeah. Anyway, so we'll just do it the legs real quick. I don't want to start a full one. I'm pretty sure I would start it like a bowline. Maybe. I can't remember. Let's try it like this. So we'll start like a Somerville bowline. I'm like, how do you do that? Yeah. So we'll go ahead and make a bowline here and see if that's... I think that'll work just fine. Okay, so you can do a bowline. I kind of lost some tension there. Let me redo that. You could also start that standard cuff method, the one that I prefer to use, but I want to start like this, just to try something different. So we'll do a bowline. Okay, and then we'll just kanuki it. So we went through, we grabbed the other side, as you can see, and then what we do is we will, let me get it close up so y'all can see this process. So here is your line right here. That's the line that just went through, like, you know, it's a little seesaw. What you're gonna do is you're gonna trap that thing to make sure it's not gonna move. So you're gonna come up and you're gonna cross, you know, ignore that, that's the bite. You're gonna come up and you're gonna cross over the column, the double column, but you're gonna go under the kanuki rope. And that's gonna keep it from shifting. Okay. And now once you have achieved that, you can move on that way. I would not go this way, even though it looks like it'd probably be just fine. I would want to go that way. Just one more time, let me show that, because that's super important. That's how you start the thing. So you do your Somerville bowline, and God, get that out of the way. You come above and then below the kanuki. And then you're exiting however you want, but I would exit that way. And then we're going to, you probably see me do this style a lot in Fudos and Aguras, but we're going to do my favorite thing to do right now. We're going to make a little L shape here. So you'll want to just envision that being an L, because if you pull it tight and then you try to snag it back through, it's going to suck. So kind of imagine an L shape and just give yourself that much slack to maintain that. You're going to go around once, and you're going to go around twice. It's going to land you right here, what I call the 6-lane highway again, as evidenced. And then you're going to ignore that middle one. You're going to grab that one. Let's see. Okay, there's, that's a bad way. I'm like, how can I best show this? Okay, so you're going to grab that one. Oh, this is much better. So you can grab that one and you're going to come above it. I see a lot of people coming below it, but you want to come above it. So come above. Snag it until you got what looks like this. And then this thing should be just floating in the middle because we're going to grab it and make a floor immediately for it. So real quick, one more time. Use 6-lane highway, you come above, you snag just the one, and make sure you're pulling it tight and keeping that tension right as you snag it. And then when you've got this, you're going to come under, floor it once, cross over, floor it twice, and you go straight for your kanuki. Coming under and then back through the top. And then you're going to do that same move you did on the top one where you go over the band, under the kanuki, and then over the top one to do your next mobility run. So, like that. And then we went under the kanuki, and then we're crossing over, and we're starting our next L shape and our next 6-lane highway. Burn out a rope. I will go ahead and extend because I do want to complete this. Okay. Grab that one again. Freeze the thing, and then we're going to floor that middle rope. Best you can see it by going under once, cross over twice, and then going for the next kanuki straight down. And when we come out this back side a little bit, let's see, we're gonna actually, that's such a bad. Oh God. I'm doing real good here. We're going to come on this side. Make sure you got that, and then you're going to come back through so that you make sure you come back out on the bottom. There. And you're coming out on the bottom, and we're going to lock it by going over, under the kanuki, and then over the other one, and then out to mobility to the next wrap. There, I know that knot is ugly, but literally the same thing we've been doing. So make the L, one wrap, 2 wraps, 6-lane highway, grab it, floor it once, floor it twice. It's really not a second floor, honestly, because you're actually, if you were just doing this like down, it would be more flooring, but we are actually going for the kanuki. So shove that through if that's what you need to do. Pull it from the bottom, make sure it's fed through the proper spot. So you come back out through this side, and then we'll just do this as a final lock. We'll do that same move. Yeah, and then, I mean, however you just want to lock it off, you know, I mean, just something like that. But anyway, that is the running double column. I don't know what you call it, like a multi-sleeve or a sleeve double column or something. But each one of these is kanukied. Each one has the space for me to wiggle a little bit. If this was all done without kanukis, my legs would be rubbing together a little bit more. It wouldn't be quite as comfortable. Let's see. But this is a beautiful thing right here, because I mean, you see me do that style a bunch for aguras and fudos anyway, so this is yet another opportunity to kind of get that pattern down. Also working on your tensioning while you're doing it, because, you know, as far as drilling goes, if you're going to do double columns on your legs, like I said, I was able to fit 14, and I'm like 5'5". So I think it's an excellent challenge for people if you want to really work on your double columns, to do what I just did over and over, to kind of get your, you know, sit in them and learn what they're like. you know, double columns are so important, and I think it really will pay you to spend time in your own, because like good bondage, a lot of it, I don't know, there's a lot of double columns in there, you know, here and there. like, um, so I highly recommend being well versed in them, and I do want to show one more, probably the one I use the most. Which is, I don't even, you know, this is a double column, the one I'm going to show, but it's very different, and it's got a lot of utility as it can float independently of the body. And that makes it perfect for self-tying or partner play, because literally you can take that cuff set and, you know, I talked about the shock of like having somebody's hands done really quick, to where like you kind of just take them and you're like, and then you got a double column. That's a very fun thing to do with somebody, you know, if you're tying on them. This is something, what I'm about to show you, where you can literally just like kind of take their hands behind their back and slip this thing up and tighten it, and like you know, there you go right there. So it's a sense it's even quicker. And for a self-tire, this is going to be a super important thing to learn, especially if you do want to go for self-bondage, like self-hog tie or anything like that. This is the premier way to do your own hands, short of like you know, one-handed bowlines or something. Yeah, so I do want to go over the prisoner's cuff, and during the self-bondage class I'll probably go into more nuance about safety and considerations around it, but I do want to just show the structure because it's, a lot of people struggle with it. I struggled with it for a long time, and once you get it though, you got it. So real quick, I want to show it before I actually do it. The way you'll do it, you'll take your two working ends, and then you'll get your, you know, get them together, get your bite, and then you're gonna put them together basically, and you're gonna ignore all this, and then you're immediately gonna go to get your other end, the two bites. And the reason we're doing this, so I can show you in a single way, but this is how I tie them, and if you need a demonstration, I might just show you in a single way. But you're gonna make two letters. I think it's P and a Q. So this is the way I kind of hold it, you know. So yeah, let me show you the way I hold the whole thing, because we've got the longer end here, and that's the working end, and this is like your bite starter and everything like that. So you can take this, and I usually flick at the wrist. I will throw it over like this, and see how it makes like a P right there? You're gonna flip it in reverse. So it's actually like that. Actually, it looks identical, doesn't it? Except for this is coming up front. I think it was in back before. So go like this, and you flip it until you've got that one. And this one goes up front, this one goes behind, and then this one you're gonna take and you're gonna flip until they look like this. So you've got this one coming up front, you've got this one going behind, and these are your two handcuffs. Now what you do is you feed this one in through the back, and this one is going to go from the forward into the back, and you're going to cross them to make the cuffs. So you take them, you feed this one through, and they kind of pull through at the same time, like that. Now eventually you'll learn to take your pinky and make sure that that loop doesn't come out, because that's how it falls apart. Once this thing comes out, the thing falls apart. So usually when I'm tightening this, you see how like pulling it right there, it's trying to escape right there. It's trying to come apart. So you'll actually take your finger to make sure that doesn't happen. And then you can take your one wrist, slip it in, take your other wrist, slip it in, and then you take these two ends and you can work them tight until you've got your hands looking like this. And then to lock it off, what you'll do is you'll take one and you'll just do a simple overhand knot, pushing it with your fingers, and then you'll tighten that too. And what that leaves is a big knot and a double column that does not slip, does not come apart, and you can actually experience some restriction with your hands. Just like that. And I want to show you, undo it. So the way you pick it out is you'll take your fingers and you'll find that wherever it was that you did that overhand knot, and you'll just kind of loosen it. And once you can pick that out, the whole thing comes apart. So this way you can do your hands behind your back, and then once you pick that thing, that little knot out, you just open it up. So I really like this thing. You'll see any self-suspension you have or pictures you have of me, if my hands are done, it's usually like that. Because it's something I can get them behind me or in front and experience restriction, and then all it takes is a little pull of that rope and then this to get out of it. So again, real quick, how you do it again is a P and a Q, and then you feed the one through the other. And there's my pinky holding the lock in place right there. This hand goes in first. This hand, and while you're putting in your other hand, you're kind of holding the whole system together in this one. Then you got both your hands in. So then you find your two things, and then you just kind of back and forth work them closed. And then however you want. So there's two ways to lock it. I mean, whether you take the long end and you knot it, or you take the short end. If you have enough bite, it's always easier to use your bite. And this is something like right now, I don't have enough bite to do it. So if I was doing this behind my back, I would actually be kind of frustrated because I would have to use the long end. So I would have to go the long end and push all that through. Now I can do it, but it's not pleasant and it's not quick. There. So it's still locked off, but it's not, like I said, it's not pleasant because you're having to take your fingers in that compromised position and you're having to shove even more rope through. And if you're, especially if you're doing this behind your back, you're probably not going to want to mess with that stuff. So to show you, once you drill this structure out, like this thing took me so long to wrap my head around. Like I watched the video a million times of like, okay, there's the one loop, and then the other loop, and then where am I getting long? You know, I'd pull the thing and then it would just come apart. And so it really took me a while. And so I wanted to kind of demonstrate the position that I've gotten to though is like, you know, I can essentially do the thing real quick. One. Yeah, just like that. And you know, of course, like if I had done a longer bite, it'd be easier to tuck. But essentially that's it. And if you need to, like, I have made this thing behind my back. And so that's another thing is like, I've made that structure upside down in the air. Like, as difficult as that thing may seem to make, it's really a muscle memory thing. Yeah, I've done them when I can't see. Like I've done them blindfolded. I've done them, you know, every which way. So this is a structure that if you're a restraint junkie like me and you really want to do self-bondage, you're going to need to really get used to that thing. And also, you know, the ways it can go wrong. Like if you tie it off wrong or something, or goofy, or I don't know what your tie-offs are like. Yeah. And I wanted to show one more curiosity with this because, you know, me being kind of the self-bondage gal I am, I have devised a way. Let me just see, I've not done this in a long time. So if you take a longer piece of rope, like a standard length, and we do a prisoner's cuff with that. Let me see. We'll do a big one, bigger than we just did, but still standalone. Okay, so there, and that actually may help you visualize the structure more if you need to use a longer piece of rope. And even not doubling it up, you know, I can show you how to do a single, but something like this is, I have found, like, you can use something like this. To go up over the elbows. Oh, where'd it go? I lost my one side. Oh. Yeah, so I've gone up over the elbows and managed to ratchet it closed once or twice, but it's one of these things where I'm too nervous to do it by myself. Because I was like, well, if I get it up there good and I do a good pull, and because like I did kind of, and it was like it squeezed it, and I was like, oh god, I'm by myself. So this is definitely dark arts for me. But I will say that knowing the structure really came in handy because when I did a shoot with somebody and he didn't know how to do rope or anything, but I wanted to be restrained for the shoot, I was actually able to give him a double column of the wrist cuff that I just showed, and then this as well for my elbows. So literally, I could give him this, and then he ran it up my arms, and then ratcheted it and tightened it up and locked it off and back. It wasn't hard at all for him to figure that out. So a standalone cuff like this, and let me just show you again the power of the readiness here. And again, if you want to see it like a single, so this is what it looks like as a single. If you want to practice it easier, you take your bite, you make your P, you Q, and then you cross them over. I mean, that may help your brain as far as like, I just wouldn't tie with a single wrap like that or a double wrap. Everything has got to be like double done for me. But so you've got this, in like a handcuff or whatever, but you can literally just throw this, if I left enough room here. I made it more for wrists than ankles. But you can throw this on somebody and tighten it up and lock it off or however you want. It's like, I'm sure you're your own queen of lock-offs. But yeah, and literally, yeah, you've got somebody like very, very quickly. And that's something you can do and then set to the side. So like if you want to surprise somebody with, a wrist tie, like when you're, if you're bringing them out and untying them and their hands are free for a few minutes and then you want to kind of keep them in that like space, you could always pick up your prisoner's cuff and kind of do their hands in it real quick. And just kind of keep them in that space. The untying process needs to be something, in my opinion, that's kind of slow, and rope should be a slow process to come out of, and that sometimes can mean adding a little bit more rope at the right times, paradoxically enough. But yes, that is it. That is everything I wanted to teach on double columns. So that's 5 different variants. They all achieve essentially the same purpose. Some have more utility than others. But yeah, that is all I got for today. So thank you for watching.